I came to the conclusion that this could be attributed to different factors, such as, for example, a person's level of self-mastery, a person's ray configuration, a person's ability to quiet their mind, a person's ability to think and not think, what kind of type a person is. Somebody may be a deep thinker and another one not. And so in my own mind, I decided to just take the middle value of these two extremes, so to speak, that I could find. And so if we take the middle value of 12 and 60,000 thoughts, that would mean that we each think about 36,000 thoughts a day as an average value. So what does that mean? If we each think about 36,000 thoughts a day, that would mean that we each have 36,000 opportunities to use our consciousness to create a meaningful and purposeful reality. It means that each one of us has 36,000 opportunities a day to construct a constructive reality. It means that each one of us has 36,000 chances a day to use our consciousness in service. It means that each of our consciousness is 36,000 thoughts strong, and it's just one day. How cool is that? And now if you consider that usually when we live more than just one day, and if you take the number 36,000 thoughts, and if you multiply that by 65.80 years, which is the average life expectancy around the world, then what we get, quickly off the top of my head, is that we each think in the course of our lives 864,612,000 thoughts. And so what that means is that each one of us, if we were to think 36,000 thoughts a day for a period of 65.80 years, so if we were to die at age 65.80 exactly, so it's an average value, but if we were to die at age 65.80 and we think 36,000 thoughts a day, it means that we each have 864,612,000 opportunities to use our consciousness to create a constructive and meaningful and purposeful and divine and glorious and splendid, fabulous, amazing reality. I forgot godlike. So that means that each of our consciousness is 864,612,000 thoughts strong. Did you realize how powerful you are? Did you realize how many opportunities you have to live a life of purpose, to create a purposeful and meaningful reality? Now, obviously, you're not the only ones living on this planet. And we share this planet with 6.5 billion thinking people. So if we do the maths again, everybody gets out, let's get out our calculators. Speaking about this one here. So if we if we assume again that we each think about 36,000 thoughts a day, and we multiply that by 6.5 billion people, and we multiply that again by 65.80 years, average life expectancy around the world, and if we are going to disregard leap years, I don't want to make it too hard on you. So then what do we get? No Einsteins here. Well, what I get, so quickly off the top of my head, of course, is that that one generation of 6.5 billion thinking people throughout the course of 65.80 years produces 5,620 million trillion thought forms. That means one generation of thinking humanity has 5,620 million trillion opportunities to live a life of purpose and to use our consciousness to help create a wonderful reality. And so that means that our generation has 5,620 million trillion opportunities to make this planet reflective of God's consciousness. All right, so now that I have successfully managed to fill your minds with numbers as large as 22 digits, what are we going to do with all of this? How can I put any of this information, or maybe even all of this information, to good use? Well, remember, in the beginning we spoke about the purpose of life. And we established that the purpose of life is to live a life of purpose. And that living a life of purpose means to use our consciousness in planetary world service. Meanwhile, we established that consciousness is the ability to grow conscious of self as an incarnation of God, and that consciousness is, or that mind is the individualizing principle. I can say it simpler, I think. Meanwhile, we established that the ability to think is the mark of humanhood, and the ability to think is what allows us to grow conscious of self as an incarnation of God, because mind is the agent of consciousness. And now, if our job is to use our consciousness in planetary world service, then our first job is to make sure that our consciousness, that the quality of our consciousness meets the high standard of what it means to be a true planetary world server in its truest, highest, noblest ideal. We ensure the quality of our consciousness by making a conscious effort to emulate God's consciousness and make our consciousness reflective of God's consciousness. Again, we make our consciousness reflective of God's consciousness by learning to think like God and speak like God and act like God and demonstrate God on earth. What it means to think like God and speak and act and demonstrate God on earth, this has been discussed in infinite detail in the writings of the I Am University, so I don't want to get into that right now. The only point I would like to make here and now is that planetary world service begins with ourselves. Planetary world service begins with each one of us making an effort to create or to make God real in our own personal reality. Planetary world service begins with each one of us making a conscious effort to make our mind reflective of God's mind and to thus create a subjective God-like reality. And the second step then is to go forth and use our God-like, our God-realized consciousness to help create a collective God-like reality. So the first step is to create a God-like subjective reality in the way how we personally and subjectively perceive our reality. And the second step then is to go forth and use our God-like consciousness to help humanity as a whole create a collective God-like reality. How can we do that?